Welcome to the Keys to Your Personal Freedom Retreat. My name is Audlyn Fadlien, and I'm your host of this retreat. In gratitude to all our viewers and the speakers, teachers who are sharing so much wisdom with you. My vision is to give you direction by presenting what is possible and available to help you break through barriers, even in these challenging times, so you could ignite your passion and purpose and stand in your power and live freely by living consciously from your heart, seeing your life flow in abundance and love. As we have seen, inner healing plays a vital role in your ability to stand in your power and to be free. It connects you to your inner guidance through your heart. But in order for you to authentically express yourself, you need to know who you are. One of the pathways to do so is through knowing and living your soul purpose. Right now, an important time in your story is to be able to exercise your free will and to do so from a place of authenticity, choosing for yourself what is most aligned for you without fear or cohesion. But first, you must understand what you came here to do, who you came to planet to be, and what you came to experience. Knowing this, open up your talents and gifts to live in a higher purpose. More than ever, the time is now to channel in your talents and gifts, to heighten your life, positively impact the life of others in some form or another, and to live life in divine flow. We are all connected and we need to stand together in sovereignty and freedom. So we are going to discuss soul contracts. What are these, how they work, and what they can do for you. It's so wonderful to introduce Nicolas David Ngan, who is speaking on the topic, understanding our soul contract as we align to our higher purpose. Nicolas is a co-founder of the Center for Conscious Ascension, which is regarded as a world leader in the fields of soul contract reading, divine healing, and light body integration, and has been working at the cutting edge of raising human consciousness for over 30 years. His main focus is on teaching practitioners in the modalities to raise human consciousness. His Amazon #1 best-selling book, Your Contracts Decoded, Discovering the Spiritual Map of Your Life with Numerology, and the Gaia.com Open Mind Show with Regina Meredith have spread the soul contract work globally. His interview will be based upon over 50 person years of development of the soul contract reading work to help light workers manifest their soul purpose. Welcome, Nicolas. I'd love
Thanks
to
for
share
having me,
with
Audlyn.
you. I would love to share with you what your passion is and how did you discover your mission? And then we'll deep dive into soul contracts as it relates to one's life's journey to personal freedom before we explore the practical side of it. How are you doing, Nicolas?
Hi. My passion is to help light workers connect with their soul destiny, their life, their highest purpose in life, and to manifest that as their gift of service into the world, which is why they were born. And how did I get to this? But over 30 years ago, I was at the beginning of my spiritual journey, and I had a soul contract reading with Frank Alper, the founder of this work in Arizona. I was on a workshop with him, and he pulled out a Star of David symbol, asked me for my birth certificate name, and he matched the sounds of that up to the sounds of ancient Hebrew. And he took the Hebrew numbers, which are inherent within ancient Hebrew letters, because he used 22 of them, and he decoded them on a Star of David, and then he explained out of the numbers that came out of that my entire life. And that was a major turning point in my spiritual journey. And that sort of ignited this passion to share this with as many people as possible. And everything that he said that day in January 1990 has happened, becoming a spiritual teacher, spreading this work globally in this case. So I'm living the whole thing. I've been living it out for over half my life.
No regrets, right?
No, it was going from a life of chaos and uncertainty to a life of alignment and focus. Many challenges with what I was born to do. So that's what it's done for me.
Awesome and amazing. So let's dive into soul contracts. What is a soul contract?
Well, soul contract is a set of Hebrew frequencies. Well, it's a set of sounds in our birth certificate name, which the soul, in whatever language it's in, that the soul chooses based upon examining all its previous lifetimes and seeing, well, what is the next natural progression for me in my journey of growth? Because we come into the earth plane, we come into our bodies, our earth suits, our avatars, whatever you want to call it, to experience the very intense emotions of earth. And that's a very powerful accelerated learning process for the soul, which it can't get in the higher dimensions. That's where it comes from. And those set of frequencies are programmed into our energy fields, the sounds of the name, our DNA, into a substance called karmic matrix, which is like a grey cobweb substance that is woven through our fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional levels of our being. And this is what we call an attraction code. It effectively radiates out to the matrix. And by the law of attraction, the matrix will rearrange around whatever that karmic matrix, which contains the soul contract, is sending out. And our lifetime is about progressing through the different lessons of the contract for the soul to learn a very specific set of lessons. And there are two primary types: there's physical lessons and spiritual lessons. And within each of those, there are three elements. And there's physical karma, which is the set of unresolved past life issues the soul brings in this time to create what we call the negative context of our life, all the challenges we have, all the stuff we don't like. So we get pretty clear what we do want by having that. And as we overcome it with what we call the physical talents, which are latent, as the talents get stronger, if they're a good match to overcome the physical karma, the physical karmic negative expression or lesson becomes our positive gifts of service. And those strong, and as the talents get stronger, it helps us move to our physical goals. What gets us out of bed in the morning, what excites us. And we have the same in the spiritual. So the physical is about getting grounded here, creating a personality, relationships, work, careers. And so what happens is that that's the foundation of the personality. And then the spiritual triangle is also active, but it becomes more active after the age of about 35, or sometimes younger, between 35 and 42. It's called spiritual awakening, initiation of fire, or midlife crisis in normal 3D terms. And that spiritual triangle contains our gift, what we are here to embody into the earth plane once we work through its issues. So there's spiritual karma, spiritual issues, and how we disconnect from Mother, Father, God. Spiritual talents to overcome that disconnection. And spiritual goals, once we've done enough work to really deliver our gift. And if we blend all six aspects together, physical and spiritual, karma, talents, and goals, that gives us the soul destiny, or the life purpose, why we're really here. And that is revealed layer by layer as we progress through our contract. We don't get it all at once because we wouldn't be ready to hear it all. So that's essentially how a soul contract works.
Nice. It's a little intricate, but I understand when you speak about the karma, the challenges, because it's all reflected in our lives. We could see we were living through it, we were experiencing it. So is there a difference? Because I've also heard the term soul purpose. Is there a difference between soul contract and soul purpose?
Well, the contract is the entire set of energy. It's the latent potential that's laid out from the time where we incarnate at conception all the way till we leave the earth plane. And how we work it through is entirely up to our free will choice of our personality created by the contract. The soul cannot interfere with that. Soul purpose is a product that will manifest from the soul contract. We call it soul destiny, same thing. That'll manifest provided you work through all the six primary aspects of the soul contract: physical and spiritual, karma, talents, and goals. So it's very challenging to do that. And that only occurs if you have worked through enough of all those 6 aspects, and that takes a lot of time, energy, and consciousness to do that. That's the difference. So hopefully you will achieve the soul destiny, also a purpose in a lifetime, but most people don't because they don't know what's going on. They're flying blind, essentially.
So that's the ultimate goal, to achieve the soul purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where life becomes very fulfilling, very aligned, very ecstatic and joyful when the soul manages to achieve that through the personality expression that's created this time round, which is different every lifetime. We have a different personality every time. We've never had past lives as personalities, only our soul has, with a different personality construct it's set up, which was optimal for that lifetime.
Okay. So it's something that a person has to work towards throughout their entire life.
Yes, it's the journey we signed up for, our soul signed up for in this lifetime.
So a viewer now listening to this would perhaps ask, what can it do for me? What can knowing my soul contract do for me?
Well, when we have an understanding of the absolute truth of what our life is about, because Hebrew is one of the 5 sacred languages that come out of the movement of Great Spirit or God or the creative force in the creation of creation. When you decode those frequencies which are inherent in your name in whatever language it's in, you're getting the absolute truth, pure vibration of why you're here. And it's very accurate, as we'll see later when we look at your chart. And if you understand what the issue, what the different aspects are, how much you've progressed through that aspect in the present time, it can then show you what you need to do to progress even faster through it. And so what it does is it gets you to focus on the things that matter and really matter in life, and gives you techniques and specific recommendations of burning through the issues. So you end up spending 80% of your energy on 20% of the things that matter, rather than the opposite, which is what most people are doing because they don't know what's going on. So it means you can skip all the superfluous stuff and get to what's important in life. It starts to flow a lot better because you're basically peeling the ego onion, all the ego construct which has been holding us back. You're peeling it a lot quicker because it's true, and then life opens up and much faster. And if you hit a point of what we call soul integration, where enough of the ego has been peeled away by self-healing and other processes, what happens then is that the soul energy becomes predominant in the lifetime. It's what we call a point of soul integration, where you start to become the walking, talking expression of the soul, whereas previously most people are at the mercy of the ego and all its games and illusions and emotional pain and suffering.
Yeah. So how is that then tied to what's playing out in the world right now? Can you?
At the moment, at the moment in the world, we have great darkness showing itself, which has always been there, great separation. And it's a mirror for our own internal darkness of separation. And we have this darkness of separation because we're all part of one great soul, one great spirit. There's only one being here in the entire universe, just experiencing itself in multi-faceted different ways on many planets. And the reason it did this is because it wanted to have an experience, a feeling, living experience of itself, getting to know itself. So it separated itself in the 12th dimension, and in an out-breath of source, it created the lower dimensions, 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th, all the way down to this 3rd physical dimension. And so it got to the point that the parts of it, our souls, forgot, or our personality, we forgot who we were, that we are part of Great Spirit. So the whole point of this is so in order to hold us this separate from God or Great Spirit, we have to have what we call points of darkness. We have souls who play the role of anchoring us as far away from God as possible, So we can have an experience of sitting separate from God. So then we have this deep desire to find our true purpose, to find a way of reconnecting to source. And so what we're seeing at the moment is the underpinning of this game of separation showing itself. It happens at the end of every game of separation. It happens on every planet, where everything that can be learnt on that planet, because every planet has a specific set of rules and learning. Here we have a very extreme range of experiences on Earth. Everything that can be learned has been learned. So there's no need for these points of separation to hold us. But they have to show themselves to the world as we rise in frequency, and consciousness or light has to be brought to them, which is what's happening in the world at the moment. And that's just exactly the same on a macro scale for the world as it is for each of us. So it's about shining consciousness and feeling our way through all the issues in the darkness, the pain, and then dissolving it and transforming it. Then as those points of darkness dissolve, the whole reality, the whole dimension that we're on Earth keeps rising in frequency even faster. The darkness dissolves, we become more conscious, we move closer to God, we move gradually up through the dimensions over millions of years as a civilization. And the whole point is to take the remembrance of what it felt like to be this separate from God, especially the past couple of years, and then to take that memory and reconnect to all that is, reconnect back to unity, back to love. I mean, those who are aware of what's going on have never been more united in the world. People have come together because there's no alternative but to unify and claim back our power and to create a much higher frequency world. There's no alternative, and everyone who knows what's going on is doing their best to do that, which is actually what's happening. And so that higher state of consciousness is the key to break free of the current situation, get back to source. It's the same on an individual basis. It's to raising our frequency, and from that place of higher consciousness, that basically dissolves the low consciousness darkness, holding us in our own personal separation and in global separation from God. So that's essentially what's going on. And this is really the end times, as they say in the Bible. So all those born-again Christians, and we're talking about this for a long time, they were right.
Yeah, so that's a really, really good explanation. And that takes us then back into us doing our part individually by looking at our soul contracts. So what would you say to someone if they would like to change it or release it? Is someone obligated to live out their soul contract, or is it possible for them to release it, change it, or to suit whatever direction they prefer to go?
This is the free will zone. So Great Spirit or God gives us free will and a personality level to do whatever we want. So most people, initially, their ego wishes to avoid the emotional pain of what's in the contract. So they will turn away from it. But that's when life gets really hard, because we're no longer aligned to the flow of spirit, what we call the spiritual signature. So those who decide to do some emotional work on themselves learn to let go the judgment and feeling bad for our programs. We need those programs to feel separate from God. That's our point of coming here. Everyone has them. It's not a big accident. And they bring consciousness to it. And as they bring consciousness to it, the contract, and they do healing, the layers of the contract start to dissolve and life gets easier, one little step at a time. So the fundamental contract is hardwired in us. It cannot be changed. But the choice is, do I consciously work on it and come out of pain and suffering into oneness and alignment to flow spirit, or do I avoid the pain and stay in suffering? And we've all seen people who avoid the contract. They're not pretty happy. Not happy by the time they hit their 50s or 60s, because the contract is pretty strong. The karma is very strong to warn them out. Light workers who work on themselves are usually a lot younger and happier, more fulfilled, because they've been aligned to it. It's a choice between fulfillment, love, and alignment, or pain and suffering. That's the choice. And so the soul doesn't know what someone will do. If they did, they wouldn't bother doing it. So it's not sure how it's going to turn out. But it gives little promptings to the personality, and hopefully we wake up and we align with that. with where the soul wants to go. I used to be very resistant to following the flow of spirit. That wasn't a good idea because it made life even harder.
So, because that's the question I was going to ask, if someone resists it, what is the backlash for that?
Well, what happens is the karmic lessons get stronger and stronger until you get the message.
You call it a cosmic slap, something like that?
God gets a bigger sledgehammer or a big truck until you've got the message. Yeah. And once you had it run over by a big truck, usually you pay attention then. But sometimes some people need a very big message. Yeah. Well, we had a very big message in the past 2 years. A lot of people have woken up who wouldn't have otherwise because they've realized something's not right here. What's going on? And it's been a part of their awakening, you see. So the world's had a Big Mac truck at it. So you can't stay still, can't stay asleep, got to wake up.
Yeah. So a question that comes to mind. So I have a soul contract. Can my soul contract interact with somebody else's soul contract? Does it work like that?
Yeah, well, with that, you can look at the interactions between two people's soul contracts, and it can tell you about the fundamental energetic interactions between the two soul contracts which are driving the relationship. And with our primary relationships in life, love and family and friends, we've already agreed with those people to have a certain interaction, to play certain roles for each other. So they're the most powerful way of learning is through those relationships, painful and joyful and every bit in between. And it explains why some relationships will work out, love relationships and personal relationships, and some never will work out, no matter what you do, because it's hardwired the way they interact for specific learning. The two souls have agreed to.
It's really for us that are in that relationship to understand what's playing out and understand and make the choices, because it really boils down then to choices, the choices that we make for ourselves. Correct?
Yeah, it's a free will choice to engage or not in the lessons. And the more learning you can get, the more progression the soul makes in its evolution.
So how does that relate then? So this sounds like it's bringing up the topic of quantum entanglement to some extent, yes? So how does that relate and work with quantum entanglement?
Can you be more specific? What do you mean by that?
Well,
I understand what that is, but how, in terms of, are you talking about relationships, or what do you exactly mean by quantum entanglement in this context?
Well, we know that everything is connected, right?
Yes.
From that point of view, that everything is connected, and so that how we interact with others, it's part of that whole process of what comes back to us. So from that point of view.
Oh yeah. Okay. So we have contracts with specific significant individuals in our life who will turn up at a specific time, depending on where we are in our evolution. It could be multiple times we could meet up, but the energy cords, what we call karmic monads, that connect us, and they trigger certain types of dynamics. So certain people will turn up on time when we're ready, or we have to be in the right state for it. Okay, it's more about being a state of being. And if it's two beings, it's about obviously geographic proximity as well. But we will attract certain individuals because we're meant to meet them, to have certain karmic experiences of learning. Yeah, that is pre-programmed. But the interesting bit is see what do we actually do with it? Do we learn the lessons, or do we walk away, or do we misinterpret what's going on? That's the interesting bit for the two souls, because they don't quite know what's going to happen.
So it's so what I'm hearing from you is that they agreed even beforehand.
Oh yeah.
The contract, yes.
Yeah, there are no accidents.
Yeah.
For significant relationships, it's all pre-planned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and often we are playing out unresolved past life issues with the same soul many lifetimes and swapping roles, and because that's just what we've chosen to go through. But obviously we come in with no memory of that initially at a personality level. But as we get involved and as we awaken if we get involved with some specific individual, and as we awaken, then the memories can start to come back. The past life files in us can open, and you realize, okay, I'm the father this time, and you're the son. But last time around, it was reversed. You see, memory comes back.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah.
Wow. I guess that's part of all the journey of life.
Yeah.
So, where are soul contracts stored? Are they stored, and if they are, where?
The soul, all experience of the soul is stored in the Akashic records on the fifth dimension. So all learning of the Creator is stored in there from embodied life. So what happens is that when the soul's out of a body, it's finished an incarnation, but not incarnated again. It goes through its Akashic records, and as I was saying at the beginning, it looks at, well, it's got certain patterns it wants to repeat, to learn from. So it'll have variations on those patterns for many lifetimes, like issues of coming to power or worthiness or trust, needing to embody. It could be a lot of different things. So out of that, it will then it will make a selection of the specific issue lessons, and then it will devise a set of frequencies in the form of the birth name to create that reality. It has assistance from its guides in doing that, but it makes the final decision. It basically designs the lifetime. And then the contract is stored within itself in the form of karmic matrix. When it embodies that, the conception, it starts to create the physical body, the energy fields, and they're all programmed with that contract from the very beginning. We are the contract. And so the body is a manifestation of that particular unique set of frequencies the soul wants to experience.
Very interesting. So, how can knowing and working with your soul contract lead you to personal sovereignty and empowerment?
Well, when you know exactly what's going on in your contract, then it makes it, when you're conscious of what's going on and you know what to do, you're halfway home, because it means you can then transmute some very disempowering experiences at times, very challenging experiences, into their positive gifts. Most people don't see their karma or their challenges as a gift, but actually if you overcome it, it becomes a positive energy to be used in service to the world. So someone can move from a place of feeling like a victim or very disempowered to actually learn to take one step at a time to actually claim their power back and become empowered, and then catalyze and empower others. So that has a massive impact. So it can take you from wherever you are and progress and move forward from seemingly insurmountable, challenging situations. Because once you know where you're meant to go, then you can focus on the energy, all the energy in the right place to actually get there, which is what a soul contract reading does.
Yeah. And so it's a person's willingness to want to go with their internal guidance.
Yeah, you must have a desire and willingness to do it. If you don't, then the soul has no fuel for moving forward. But usually emotional pain is a pretty strong motivator. So anything, most people think, well, anything's better than where we are now, so I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
And when they realize this is actually working, it motivates them further. Then their life changes. They move from despair to hope, to optimism, and welcome each day in quite a different way.
To lead a person to a life of freedom, following their soul contract path.
If you are aligned to the spiritual signature, if you have reached that point of soul integration where you've cleared enough of the ego based upon your understanding of the soul contract and applying the right healing tools, then when you're aligned with the flow of spirit, then you are in a much greater place of sovereignty and freedom, because you're doing what you came here to do. For example, 90% of people are emotionally disconnected from their work. People who go to a normal 3D job. That was a Gallup did a study. So allowing for a margin of error, that's pretty much most people doing a normal job, which means they're not aligned to where the soul wants to take them. And so they're not particularly happy because they're not connected to the work. Whereas if I used to be in the corporate world about 25 years ago, whereas if you're aligned with the flow of your soul, each day is a lot more aligned and joyful because you're doing what you love doing. one of my team members who joined the Centre for Conscious Ascension said to me after starting earlier this year, she said to me, "This is not really work, Nicolas." I said, "No, this is just what we do out of love for humanity. We just happen to get paid for it." She said, "Yeah, that's right. I never had a job like this before." And after all, she sort of didn't see it even as a job. It's more like, this is just what we do. Mm. So that's being 100% emotionally connected and engaged with the job. I don't even think of it as a job. We don't even think of it that at all. It's just life. It's what we do.
So literally life just flows effortlessly.
Yes, but you've got to work on it. It's not a quick fix. Emotionally clearing, to be clear, to emotionally clear an entire contract, or even to get to the point of soul integration, takes an enormous amount of desire, will, and drive, determination. Yeah. Because the soul wants to go from the negative expression of what's in the contract to the positive expression. It wants to have the deep visceral experience of going from pain through each step to come to love and joy. That's what it comes here for. And not everyone's up for that. Some people aren't prepared to delve into that. But those who do, those who have the motivation and courage to do that, and the right help, they will live more aligned, fulfilled lives. So there will be a sense of freedom because they're doing what they love to do, serving in some way with their gifts and align with them. It's all about alignment, really, with where the soul wants to go, but getting clear enough to connect to that in the first place.
Awesome. So on that note, I believe you have a practical example that we'll walk through on how soul contracts work.
We do. We have your chart here. So I will share the chart. Yeah, you need to give me screen sharing permission.
Sure.
So, can you see the chart properly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm going to find my pen here. What we've done is we've taken your name here, all right, and we have converted it to the equivalent Hebrew sounds in this software. This is soulcontractreader.com for those who want to have a play with the software. And we have 22 Hebrew sounds here. And each Hebrew letter has a specific Hebrew number associated with it. It's one and the same thing, unlike conventional numerology, where numbers are allocated to letters of the English alphabet. So we take these Hebrew numbers here, which are more Hebrew frequencies, which just have a number we use in English associated with it, and we decode them on the star date. So this is the physical part of the chart I talked about earlier, and this is the spiritual part. And within the physical chart, we have three aspects. We have physical karma, talents, and goals. And so the karmic lesson is triggered initially, as I said earlier. The latent talents rise to overcome it if they're a good match. They become stronger. That helps us achieve the physical goals. What excites us in life? Okay. And so the energy moves from physical karma to physical talents to physical goals. And then here, from spiritual karma to spiritual talents to spiritual goals. So the spiritual talents is about overcoming the karma. As it gets stronger, it helps us achieve the spiritual goals here. This is time. This is percentage complete. Over time, we will gradually increase the percentage of a particular aspect being completed. And this applies for all 6 aspects. And if we consciously work through all 6 aspects over time, what manifests is the soul destiny here. It's gradually revealed as we progress. So how do we calculate this? Well, we take these numbers here. We start at physical karma and we allocate them in a clockwise expanding spiral around the Star of David. keep going around until we use them all up to get to the end. We add up the numbers. The total in physical karma is 16. So that forms the first number here, the 16. And the other number here is formed simply by going 1 plus 6 is 7. So it's saying in physical karma, there's a energy of a pure 16 and a pure 7 is a lesson or negative expression. Doesn't mean it's bad, it's just a lesson. And every blend in between along this is a mixture, just like hot and cold taps in a shower. Every blend is a slightly different experience, and you'll experience all of those through a lifetime. In the case of physical goals, the total is 40. So 4 plus 0 equals 4. So the frequency of 4, but we can't reduce it anymore. So 4 plus nothing is another 4. So we have what's called a double number. This is a combination number. There's only one frequency of a 4 we're working with here, whereas there's a whole range of frequencies over here. Okay, so some numbers are combination numbers, some are double numbers. It's hard to chart. And if we take the physical numbers here and place them on the top half of the table, and spiritual numbers on the bottom half, we can figure out the soul destiny. We do that by adding up the two columns here. So the left-hand one is 65, so it has to be reduced to a number between 1 and 22. 6 plus 5 is 11, and 2 plus 9 is 11, but we reduce it to the smallest possible number, so 1 plus 1 is 2. So the 11, 2 goes in the middle, the soul destiny. And these channel symbols were brought through by Frank Alper, my teacher in the 80s. They're like portals that can help me read the chart for you. So the question is, the main thing is here, we will do a short reading here. What key question do you have about your life, Audlyn, that you'd like answered? And I'll use that as a lead-in.
Okay. That's a tall order. What key question? Okay.
Yeah, what's running at the moment?
Am I on the right path? Would that work?
Okay. Well, what do you think the path is at the moment?
Being a teacher.
Okay. What sort of teacher?
A spiritual teacher.
Okay.
Life lessons. Life lessons. Understanding life. How to navigate life and push past the blocks, whatever challenges, what's standing in the way to achieving whatever your heart desires, something like that.
Okay, so in physical karma, the lesson here is to learn to show your true self. This is a 7. This is about stopping hiding from the world, dropping the facade, and showing your true heart. How's that been going?
Well, I think it's starting to go very well because we are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And creating networks. I mean, this whole event is like creating with an open heart, drawing lots of like-minded people to you, creating a network. Okay. And so this is about showing your true self.
Yeah, that has been difficult for me though, in terms of putting myself out there. So I just wanted to see that.
Yeah. So it's learning to put yourself out there and being totally in your truth and realizing when you're in your truth with an open heart, everyone else has to come into their truth or walk away. And actually from moving from a place of feeling unsafe to show the true you, to actually realizing when you express true feeling and thought, everyone else has to do the same. And it's actually quite safe because you're in the frequency of love. And the 16 here is all about, I'm focusing on the karmic aspects because this is where the lessons are. It's about overcoming any resistance to allowing spirit to come down to the earth plane. And taking high-level spiritual knowledge and expressing it in plain English in the world in a very accessible way to the man or woman in the street. It's making spirituality easy to access. So how's that been going?
It's been going.
It's what?
It's been going. I must say it has been a little challenge, but I have passed a lot of the barriers, and I think that's why I'm ready now to present myself to the world, and and I'm doing what I'm doing right now, which is hosting the retreat.
Yeah. So what triggered the idea of the retreat?
It was that desire to help others. Because what came to me was that a lot of persons were just talking about the same things, and feeling like there was no hope, that humanity was going down a spiral. They didn't feel that they had the power within them to do anything to shift their life. And I just felt that I needed to bring that message out, to let them know that the power is within us, and each of us have to play our part, and collectively then we could shift to the next level that we all desire, and we came here to do. So that's why I came up with the idea of the retreat.
Okay. So in physical talents, you have a 24, and the 22 is about some talent position is the ability to connect to source and blend mind, body, and soul, and to embody, bring in completeness, all the multidimensional experience of the soul, and to share it with the world with a force. This is about taking knowledge and duplicating and sharing it. So this is the teacher part of you, sharing, duplicating, sharing knowledge. So are you very versatile, Audlyn?
Yes, I just know how to do stuff.
Yeah, this is where it comes from, because coming from all the past life experience of the soul. So this is ideal being a spiritual entrepreneur and teacher, because you have to be very flexible in what people need. Okay. So this is you delivering this flow of knowledge from multidimensional knowledge from source into this network. Okay. In plain English. That's what's going on there. In the physical goals, the lesson there is to learn to trust in the flow of life. How's that been going?
Doing very well, actually, because it's trusting the flow that got me here. Following internal guidance, feeling that strong pull towards moving in this direction, and taking the necessary steps that actually got me here, to even coming up with the idea of the retreat, and now presenting the retreat to others.
Yeah. So sharing your knowledge and bring the flow people in. And did the right sort of people turn up in the end for the retreat? In terms of the speakers? Did the right sort of people turn up in the end that you wanted?
Yes, it's just amazing how it just flowed together. Because I had this concept, I did not know how it was going to come out. And then just the right speakers, the right content, everything just came together. And it's now taking persons on a journey from understanding what's happening in the physical reality, connecting with themselves, and knowing that there is a much higher level of consciousness, a higher place of living, a higher purpose. And then it's just flowing from one to the other, taking them to the place where they realize that within them they are free, they are sovereign, and they could choose to live whatever life they desire, and they could do it successfully.
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're giving people structure.
Yes.
The 11 is about first learning your own spiritual structure.
Yes.
How's that been going? Working out the structure of how things work spiritually. That's an 11.
Yes, I have been, for the last few years, I have been actually doing a lot of self-work as well, because in this space, to help others, you have to know, you have to have experienced it yourself, and you have to come from a place of authenticity. So I have been also doing that work on myself, and that is why I'm able to structure it in that kind of way, so that I could present it in a way that others could really understand and it actually works for them.
Yeah. And then about the 2 is on emotional springs, so emotionally supporting people to embody that new structure, and also learning resiliency yourself and learning wisdom from foolishness. This is moving from impulsive decisions when you were younger. Did that happen?
Yes, a lot when I was younger, though. But I found that when I came into the spiritual space a few years ago, I realized that I had to go through the same process of learning, and making the somewhat foolish mistakes, or coming to the realization that it's all there, and I don't have to second guess myself or feel that I'm doing something wrong or anything like that. So yes, I went through the moments, the little moments here and there, and it's still happening, because I also find that this is a learning process. Life is a learning process. So we're never ever at the end of the learning process. There's always something new coming up, and something new to navigate. So yes, that has been happening for me, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So learning wisdom from foolishness, and to be wise, objective, to teach others how to do that. And the spiritual talents are all about learning to connect with all sorts of people. Are you good at that? Are you good at going somewhere, say a party or something, connecting to a whole range of people and being able to relate to them emotionally, and being like an emotional chameleon, just changing way you engage just to meet them? They're over here, you can meet them in wherever they are. Does that happen?
Yes, I think I seem to have a natural way of connecting with others, and connecting them on the same level that they are at. And emotionally as well. So I there is so persons tend to gravitate towards me to share, for support, for guidance, direction, and it has happened almost all my life.
Yeah, because you have all this high level spiritual energy like this one and this one, but you got to better people got to better relate to you, so you can transmit this to them. And the spiritual goals is the same as spiritual goals, the same as physical goals. It's all about duplicating and sharing knowledge. So do you find that if you learn something exciting, which is really deeply meaningful for you, you want to share it with others?
Yeah, I'm really good at part of my career before used to be about training. So I used to do a lot of training because I used to work with computer systems. And once I get a concept, it's so easy to be able to duplicate that concept, but even add my own flavor to it, because I understand it to that level where it just automatically just takes a life of its own, and moves in different directions. So yes, I that has not really been a problem for me at all.
Yeah. So definitely to people structure, channel source, relate to them, share knowledge. And the soul destiny, the product of all of these, coming into here, is really about forming a high level body of your own unique knowledge, of taking in the influences and ideas that are resonant to you, and creating your own unique structure of truth and sharing it in the world. So this is what this is about. And then throwing away the things which don't work, throwing them away over here. So it's about discerning what is true, what is right for you. Sound about right?
That is very right.
Yeah.
I tend to not like confinement, or stringent rules and this kind of stuff. I believe that life should flow, and persons should be allowed to flow and have free will to choose, and but within reason. So yes, that actually is very aligned.
Yeah. So in summary, it's about expressing spiritual knowledge in plain English with an open heart to a big network of people, flowing and channeling this knowledge from source, sharing this knowledge unconditionally, knowing that as you share, more will come to you, giving them a high level spiritual structure here and here in a grounded way, and again, sharing that. So this fits, you're in the right place. Do you feel free and sovereign now you're doing what you really want to do?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Probably quite different to being in the corporate IT world.
Yes, it was actually very settling for me to turn away, to walk away from it. It had come to its natural end, and it was the next natural progression to move into something that I feel very aligned to and very connected to, and like it's part of me. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope that give you some clarity.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much. And so I think the viewers will, I know for sure the viewers will get a lot of insights from this little exercise that we went through. And so I know they'll be looking forward to their free gift. So could you just share a little bit about what your free gift would be to the viewers?
Yeah. So the free gift is you can have up to 4 free soul contract charts using the software you saw there. You can get the software at soulcontractreader.com. Just got to register, and you can have 4 free charts on there. Any more after that, you have to pay a small fee. And so it'll generate a chart for you. And if you want to find out what it means, you can get my book, Your Soul Contract Decoded. You can find it at yoursoulcontractdecoded.com. And because the software is designed to go with the book. And then if you read the book, it goes into a lot more depth of what we've been talking about today. But all the interpretations, all the numbers are in there. So the book explains how the whole thing works. And so you can dig into the interpretations and find out what your life is really about and get on with what's really important. It's important not to beat yourself up, realizing there's a lot of distractions you've been involved in. It's just part of the learning, but you get to the real meat of life, what really matters. And then you can get on with it, because the book will also give you recommendations on how to move forward on the specific aspects. And when you see the interpretations, you realize which ones are relevant to you, because some of them you may have already worked through, some you may not have got to, but some will be really strongly resonant. And then you look in the recommendations and it will say, make suggestions on what you can do to overcome it, and just go with the ones that feel right. And then you find life starts to change, because suddenly the lights are on, you know what's going on, it's a big shift, because most people, the lights aren't on. It's like driving around in a car in the dark with no headlights and no sat nav. So you got the lights on, sat nav's on, you know where you're going, which is heading towards soul destiny. So life changes quite radically. So that's the gift. And if you wanted a live reading, you can also have that as well if you're reading the book, if you want very specific interpretations or recommendations based on where you are in your life. So I hope you guys have fun with this. Most people have a lot of fun with us.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So our takeaway here is that what you suggested, to have the desire, the drive, the will, the drive,
the
and the determination.
Will is very important. If you don't have enough will, nothing happens in life.
Yes, and with that brings us to freedom. So
yes, if a will. Yeah, that's the key. Will to align to the way the soul wants to go, the soul destiny, and then eventually you'll have freedom if you do the work.
Yes, if you do the work.
Time well spent. So I'll say there is no quick fix here, but at least you know you're doing the right sort of work. And this is the shortest path to freedom and sovereignty.
Yes, yes.
That's the main thing.
So thank you so much, Nicolas. It has been a pleasure. And thank you for my reading. I know the viewers would have gotten a lot of wisdom, knowledge, insight, and help them on their pathway into what direction they choose for themselves.
Okay, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.